Hey George, what's the matter?
I've lost my dinosaur.
Where did you last have it? 'Cause it might be somewhere around.
I don't know.
Maybe Detective Peppa can help you. Yup, for sure I can. What's up guys, I'm back and here I am with another season 1 episode. And this is the second episode of the entire show. So yeah, in this episode we're talking about is Mr. Dinosaur is lost. I don't know about this one. So plotline to this episode. Mr. Dinosaur is George's favorite toy. Like he cuddles around with it. He likes Mr. Dinosaur. He likes to do all kinds of stuff with him. But when Mr. Dinosaur goes missing, George is distraught. And Daddy Pig helps Peppa to become a detective. And together they track down Mr. Dinosaur, making George a very happy little piggy again. Yup. He loves Mr. Dinosaur. So this is where I'm going to place Mr. Dinosaur is lost on the scale of 1 to 10. Or 0 to 100. 61 out of 100. It's a high mediocre. Yeah, it was very close to being a low good or a neutral good. Yeah, it was super close to being a low good. Yeah. Yeah. And then, yeah, it's a high mediocre. It's just an episode. It's just okay. It's just an okay episode. Alright, so in the beginning, Peppa and her family are watching television, but George is sitting at the front with Mr. Dinosaur. Yeah. But then when Peppa and George go to the garden, George scares Peppa with Mr. Dinosaur. Yeah, he likes to scare Peppa with Mr. Dinosaur. She's like, "Eee, too scary." It's kind of funny. There was some parts I laughed at. Yeah, and at summertime, Mr. Dinosaur likes to sit with George. But then George burps. But then Mommy Pig says, "Was that you, George, or Mr. Dinosaur?" But then he says Mr. Dinosaur, but then he burps again. To find out the actual truth, it was actually George. But then, while George is in the bath, he also likes to have Mr. Dinosaur in the bath. Also with George's new dinosaur. That's a similar scene from Peppa Pig. This and George's new dinosaur that I'll be getting into the future. Probably in a few months, because I'm not finished with the season 1 thing. Like I said in the last review, I'm gonna do them in order now. And then when Peppa and George go to bed, Mr. Dinosaur is tucked up with him. But except Peppa's Teddy, she's on the ground. Yeah, but Peppa's Teddy is usually next to her. But then in the morning, the next day, George plays one of his favorite games, throwing Mr. Dinosaur in the air and catching him when he falls back down. I don't know, man. But then Peppa and Daddy Pigs are playing drafts. And then Peppa Pig wins. Or just Peppa. But then George runs into the house crying. For whatever reason. And then Mommy Pig says, George, what's the matter? But then George says, Dinosaur. But then Daddy Pig asks George, have you lost Mr. Dinosaur? And then he's like, yes. Yeah, George has lost Mr. Dinosaur. But then Mommy Pig says that they'll find Mr. Dinosaur. But then Daddy Pig says it's a job for a detective. And then Peppa asks, what is a detective? And then he says a detective is a very important person who is good at finding things. But then Peppa wants to be a detective. So Peppa's the detective and George finding Mr. Dinosaur. And then Peppa says, I'm the detective. I'll help you find Mr. Dinosaur. But Mommy Pig says that maybe the detective should ask George simple questions. But then Peppa asks, where's Mr. Dinosaur? And then George starts crying again because he doesn't know where he is. But the Daddy Pig says the detective can try and guess where he is. Where he might be. But then she looks in the bathroom. Yeah, she looks in the bathroom. And she looks in the bath, but Mr. Dinosaur isn't there. But then she looks in Peppa George's bedroom, and she looks on George's bed, but Mr. Dinosaur isn't there either. Yes. But Mommy Pig says that they should try the garden, but then Peppa was gonna say that. Yeah, Peppa says she was gonna say that. But then Peppa looks everywhere in the garden, but she says she can't find it. But then Daddy Pig says, do you like to throw Mr. Dinosaur in the air? And then he says yes. But they should find Mr. Dinosaur stuck in a tree. Yeah, but then Peppa says that he saw him first. She saw him first. Yes. Yeah, it turns out Mr. Dinosaur was stuck on the tree the whole time. Yeah, George loves his dinosaur. Yeah. Yeah, George is happy to have him back again. But then he gets him stuck in a tree again. But then Daddy Pig says maybe it isn't a good idea to play with dinosaurs near trees. And then he rescued him again. And then they all get a happy ending. And there you go. Mr. Dinosaur's lost. That's it. Now on to the final thoughts. This is why I give it a mediocre, like a high mediocre or something. It's because it's similar to Teddy's Day Out. Yes, it's similar to Teddy's Day Out. Yeah, it's about time you knew why I give this a mediocre rating. Well, not mediocre, just an okay rating. Yeah, just an okay rating. It's because it's similar to Teddy's Day Out, but it's a better version. Yeah, it's a better version of Teddy's Day Out, since George is caring about him. Peppa in Teddy's Day Out. Yeah, in Teddy's Day Out, Peppa, it looks like Peppa doesn't even care about Teddy. But in this one, George really cares about Mr. Dinosaur, but Peppa had to find him. Yeah, it's similar to Teddy's Day Out, but George doesn't leave Mr. Dinosaur behind far away. But he did in the garden. It's just that he didn't leave him in the woods where they were having their picnic at in Teddy's Day Out. Yeah, this is an even better version of Teddy's Day Out. Yeah, well, I don't mind people making a better version of bad episodes that I hate. Yeah, this is an even better version of Teddy's Day Out, but it's just a mediocre. It's pretty boring at some moments. One fact, what made it boring is it's just almost all of the episode of George being annoying. It's just the second half that ruined it from being a low good or a neutral good. Yeah, it's just the second half that ruined it. Yeah, the second half is just George being annoying. Like he's crying, and he can't find Mr. Dinosaur. Yeah, that's the reason why I give it an okay rating. The first half was pretty good, but the second half was just bad. The second half was bad. The second half was was just a mediocre second half. Yeah, the first half was good, but the second was mediocre. That's why I give it an okay rating. Or just a high mediocre, however you would say it. Okay, or just a high mediocre. I'd say a high mediocre. I say both. I just say okay in the Peppa Pig title cards. I'll probably post that later on. Probably after one of my videos. But remember, I'm only posting on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. So, I just wasn't interested in this. I just wasn't interested in this episode. Yeah, because of the second half. Yeah, the first half was good, but the second half was mediocre, so that's why I give it an okay rating. But even better than Teddy's Day Out. Yeah, Teddy's Day Out was just a neutral, a low bad. Yeah, just a low bad. Low bad is from 30 to 0, and neutral bad is from 31 to 45, and the high bad is just from... a neutral bad is for 40 to 31, and the high bad is just from 41 to 49. Yeah, so... yeah, it's just boring in the second half. The second half made it worse. To give it a... yeah, I just can't. Yeah, sorry all you Mr. Dinosaur's Lost fans. If you're a Mr. Dinosaur's Lost fan, then just give your opinion. If it's a low good, neutral good, or a high good. I'd say a high mediocre. Very close to being a low good. But I just couldn't give it a low good because it's similar to Teddy's Day Out. And the second half was just mediocre. A low mediocre, to be honest. Yeah, the first half, I know I keep saying this, but the first half was a high good, but the second half was just a low mediocre. So I had to give it an okay rating for my Peppa Pig title cards, but alright, a high mediocre for me. It's just a 6 out of 10. Sorry. So that's it with it. I'll see you guys next time.